Where did you get that? A millionaire grandmother. Saw a waitress's necklace and couldn't hold back her tears. Sometimes the most precious. Inheritance comes not in the form of money, but in the form of a granddaughter who wears around her neck a medallion given 30 years ago to her missing daughter. This is the story of how an 80-year-old billionaire recognized her blood in a young waitress at a small cafe. About family secrets, hid by a son for the sake of an inheritance. About letters that never reached their destination, and about betrayal that lasted 3 decades, and how love is stronger than money, and family is not only blood kinship, but also a choice to forgive, accept, and start anew. Before we begin, tell us in the comments what part of the world you are watching from today. A silver star-shaped locket made 82-year-old Alinva's heart skip a beat. She hadn't seen this piece of jewelry for 30 years, and now it dangled on a thin chain around the neck of the young waitress who served her coffee in a small cafe on the outskirts of town. "Girl," Emily called quietly as the waitress placed the cup on the table. "Yes, ma'am. This locket, where did you get it?" The girl instinctively touched the jewelry around her neck. She was about 25. Her chestnut hair was pulled back into a neat bun, her eyes the same emerald color Isabella once had. "It came from my mother." "Why do you ask?" Emily didn't answer right away. She carefully examined the girl's face, searching for familiar features. The shape of her eyes, the arch of her eyebrows, the shape of her lips, everything resembled her missing daughter. "What's your name?" "Amelia." "Amelia Reed." "And your mother?" "Isabella Reed." "She died 5 years ago." Emily's world rocked. Isabella was her daughter, who had disappeared 30 years ago after a quarrel. Reed was the name of the very same young musician Emily had forbidden her to marry. "Isabella," the old woman whispered. "You knew my mother?" Amelia said in surprise. Maybe. Please sit down. I need to tell you something." Amelia hesitantly sank into the chair opposite. The cafe was almost empty. Only a few customers at the far tables. "This medallion," Emily pointed to the piece. "It's called Polaris. It was custom-made in a Fifth Avenue jewelry shop 35 years ago. My late husband, Richard, ordered it for me for our wedding anniversary. But how could it have gotten to my mother?" "Because I gave it to my daughter for her 18th birthday. A daughter named Isabella." Amelia turned pale. "You mean to say, I think, that your mother was my daughter, and you are my granddaughter?" Silence hung between them like a heavy cloud. Amelia looked at the elegant older woman in the expensive coat, trying to comprehend what she had just heard. "But that's impossible," she finally said. "My mother never talked about her wealthy relatives. We always lived very modestly." "Tell me about her, about your mother." "What exactly?" "Everything. What she looked like, what she did, what she said about the past." Amelia began to tell her story hesitantly. "My mother was very beautiful, with chestnut hair and green eyes. She loved to draw, though she never sold her paintings. She worked in a flower shop and sometimes worked as a seamstress. She talked little about her past. She had just grown up in a wealthy family, but had fallen out with her parents. And my father, Daniel Reed, was a musician, played guitar in small clubs, and died when I was 7. Tuberculosis." Elenina closed her eyes. Daniel Reed, the very same young man she considered unworthy of her daughter. A talented but poor musician from a working-class neighborhood, the one because of whom Isabella left home and never returned. And after my father's death, my mother raised me alone. It was difficult, but we managed. She always said that we had each other, and that was enough. She never mentioned her family, her parents. Sometimes she looked at that locket and felt sad. She said it was a reminder of a time when she was happy, but she didn't go into details. Emily pulled her phone out of her purse and showed Amelia an old photograph. Isabella at 18, with that very locket around her neck. "Oh my God," the girl breathed. "That's Mom. Where did you get that photo?" "Because I'm her mother, your grandmother." Amelia looked at the photo, then at Emily, then back at the photo. The resemblance was undeniable. "But why didn't Mom ever tell you about her?" "Because we had a really bad fight. She wanted to marry your father, and I was against it." "Why?" "Because I was a stupid, proud woman who believed that wealth was more important than love. Daniel was a good man, but he had no money. No connections, no prospects. I thought I was protecting my daughter from making a mistake. And what happened? Isabella left home, saying she would choose love over money. That was 30 years ago, and I haven't seen her since. And have you looked for her? Of course you have. I hired detectives, announced rewards, checked all the hospitals and archives. But she seemed to disappear. But why didn't she contact you herself? Emily paused. It was a question that had plagued her for 30 years. Why hadn't Isabella ever called, written, or tried to mend the relationship? Perhaps she couldn't forgive, or was she too proud to come back? And now what? Now I've found you, my granddaughter, and I want to know everything about you. Where you live, what you do, whether you have a family. I live in a small apartment 2 blocks from here. I've been working at this cafe for 3 years. I'm raising my son, Leo. He's 8 years old. Do I have a great-grandson? Elenina's eyes sparkled. Yes, a very smart boy. He loves books and chess. And his father left when he found out about the pregnancy. We haven't seen him since. Elenina reached across the table and covered Amelia's hand. Darling, I know this sounds incredible, and I understand if you need time to process it all, but let me come into your life. Let me be the grandmother I should have been 30 years ago. Amelia looked at the graceful hand, encrusted with expensive rings, resting on her working fingers, roughened from constant work. What if you're wrong? What if I'm not your granddaughter? Then I'll be glad I met a wonderful girl who reminded me of my daughter. But the locket is unique. No one else has made one like it. So, what do you suggest? Come to my house. Tomorrow, on your day off, bring your son. We'll talk. I'll show you photos of Isabella, tell you about our family, and if you want, we can do a DNA test too. Be absolutely sure. Amelia hesitated. On the one hand, the prospect of starting a family was tempting. She had always felt alone in this world. On the other hand, this woman was obviously very rich, and rich people don't always tell the truth. Okay, she finally decided. Tomorrow after lunch. But if this is some kind of hoax, it's not a hoax, my dear. It's a miracle. A miracle. I've been waiting for 30 years. Emily wrote her address on a napkin and handed it to Amelia. The girl took the piece of paper and read it. Estate, Long Island. Vance. She asked. What do you mean, an S corporation? Global? I'm Emily. Amelia almost dropped the napkin. Emily Navance was one of the richest women in the country. Her photographs regularly appeared in magazines, and the corporation was among the top 10 largest companies in the world. Are you serious? Absolutely serious. See you tomorrow, dear Amelia. Take with you everything that remains of your mother. Letters, photographs, and documents. This will help us piece together the story. Emily stood up, left a $100 bill on the table for a $3 coffee, and headed for the exit. At the door, she turned around. By the way, why are you working in a cafe? Do you have an education, any dreams? I studied to be a designer, but after the birth of my son, I had to quit. I work wherever I can to support my family. We'll talk about that tomorrow, too. And Emily left, leaving Amelia completely confused, with a napkin in her hand and a million questions in her head. The Vance estate exceeded all of Amelia's expectations. Beyond the high wrought iron gates lay manicured lawns, rose gardens, and fountains, and the mansion itself resembled a European castle. 8-year-old Leo clung to his mother, stunned by the luxury. Mom, are we sure we're going this way? He whispered. Yes, honey. This lady could be our relative. The butler led them to the library, where Emily was waiting with photo albums. She was wearing a simple, elegant dress, and her gray hair was neatly styled. She looked younger than her 82 years. Amelia, my dear, she rose to greet them. And this must be Leo. The boy nodded shyly. Hello, he said quietly. Hello, clever boy. I heard you like chess. Yes, ma'am. Wonderful. I have a very beautiful chessboard. A gift from an English grandmaster. Will you show me your skills? Is it okay? Of course, but first, let's get to know Mom better. Emily opened the first album. The photographs showed a young woman, strikingly similar to Amelia. The same eyes, the same cut of the lips, even the way she smiles. This is your mother at 15, Emily said. And here at the graduation, at the birthday party. And this photo was taken a week before she passed. In the last picture, Isabella looked happy but determined. A familiar locket gleamed around her neck. She is very beautiful, Leo whispered. She looks like her mother. Very much so, Emily agreed. Now tell me about yourself. Amelia said you have things of your mother. Amelia took out a small box. Here is all that remains. A few photographs, her diary, her birth certificate. Emily carefully took the documents. The birth certificate confirmed it. Isabella, daughter of Emily and Richard Vance. And here is her diary. Amelia handed over the tattered notebook. Emily opened to a random page and read. Mom doesn't understand what love is. For her, it's just a deal, a profitable alliance. Oh, Daniel, with him I feel alive. He is poor, but his heart is richer than any money. Can I read this at home? Emily asked. Of course. Now tell me more about Isabella's life, how she lived after she left. Amelia began to tell. The first years were very difficult. Mom worked as a waitress, Dad played in bars. They rented a room in the basement, barely making ends meet, but they were happy together. And when I was born, it became even more difficult. Mom often cried at night, saying she couldn't give me a normal life. Dad consoled her, promising that everything would work out. And after my father's death, Mom became withdrawn, worked a lot, rarely smiled, sometimes looking at the locket and crying quietly. She never said she wanted to contact her family, saying that her family had disowned her, that her parents had chosen money over their daughter. Emily winced painfully. That's not true. I never disowned her. But why did she think so then? I don't know. Perhaps out of pride or resentment. At that moment, a man of about 50 entered the library. He was wearing an expensive suit, tall, gray-haired, and had cold gray eyes. Mom, what's going on here? He asked sharply. Julian, meet Amelia, Isabella's daughter, my granddaughter. Julian Vance, Alina's only son and heir to the corporation, cast Amelia a disdainful glance. Another adventurer who wants to profit at our family's expense. Julian, Emily said indignantly. What, Julian? Every month, someone calls themselves our relative. Remember the story with the niece from California? That's different. She has Isabella's locket. The locket can be bought or stolen. Amelia stood up. Perhaps we should leave? I don't want to cause trouble. No, dear. Emily took her hand. Julian is simply protecting the family. It's normal. Protecting from scammers, Julian said coldly. If she really is her granddaughter, let her prove it. The DNA test will decide everything. All right, Amelia agreed. I'm ready. Then we'll do the tests tomorrow, Emily said. In the meantime, Julian, behave yourself. After her son left, Emily apologized. Forgive him. He's used to being the sole heir and is afraid of competition. And if the test confirms the relationship, then you will receive what is rightfully yours as Isabella's daughter. And what exactly? The share in the corporation, the trust fund, the real estate. Isabella is my daughter and her inheritance has been waiting for her all these years. Leo, who had been quietly playing with chess in the corner, suddenly asked, Grandma Emily, why is Uncle Julian so angry? He's not angry, dear, just cautious. And was Mama Isabella your daughter? Yes, honey. She was my beloved daughter, whom I lost because of my own stupidity. And now we are your family. I really hope so. That evening, as Emily was seeing her guests off, she hugged Amelia. We'll do the tests tomorrow and everything will become clear, but I already know the results. How can you be so sure? You're too similar to her. And not just in appearance. Your mannerisms, your intonations, even the way you hold your head when you're thinking. And if Julian is right, if I'm an adventurer, then you're the most sincere adventurer in the world, and you have the most charming accomplice. Emily smiled at Leo. At home, Amelia couldn't sleep for a long time. The prospect of becoming part of the richest family in the country was no less terrifying than the possibility of being exposed as an imposter. Mom, are we really going to be rich? Leo asked before bed. I don't know. Dear, the main thing is that we can find a family and Uncle Julian will love us. Perhaps he needs time to get used to it, but I'm not afraid of him. He just has sad eyes. Amelia was surprised by her son's observation, but didn't pursue the topic. Tomorrow would tell whether they would become part of the Vance family or whether they would remain what they always were, simple people without roots or connections. The DNA test results came back a week later, confirming what Emily had known all along. Amelia was indeed her granddaughter. The probability of a match was 99.9%. I knew it, Emily exclaimed, hugging Amelia in her office. Welcome to the family, dear. Julian stood by the window, studying the documents with a grim look. Good, he said finally. DNA confirms the relationship, but that doesn't mean she has rights to the inheritance. What do you mean? Emily frowned. Isabella voluntarily left the family, renounced her inheritance. Legally, her share passed to me. There were no documents of renunciation, but the fact of her departure and the 30-year absence of contact existed. Amelia felt the growing tension between mother and son. Maybe I shouldn't interfere in family matters, she suggested. Nonsense, Emily dismissed. You're part of this family, and you have rights. What rights exactly? Julian asked coldly. A stake in a corporation that would have belonged to Isabella. A trust fund. Family real estate. Billions of dollars, Julian clarified, looking at Amelia. Not a bad motivation for fraud. I'm not a fraud, Amelia flared. We'll see. Beatrice is conducting her own investigation. Beatrice Vance, Julian's wife, was the daughter of an influential judge and had connections in all sorts of circles. An elegant blonde with a cold smile and a sharp tongue. What investigation? Emily asked, surprised. We're checking the background of our new relative. Education, work, connections. Curious details emerge. What details? For example, that a month ago, Amelia was inquiring about openings at our corporation, applying for a position as a designer. Amelia turned pale. That's true, but I didn't know about the relationship then. Very convenient, Julian remarked sarcastically. First she researched our company, and then she showed up with the medallion. But the medallion is real. You saw the photos yourself. Photos can be falsified, and the medallion can be copied. Emily intervened. Enough, Julian, you can't fool a DNA test. DNA confirms her relationship with Isabella, but it doesn't prove her daughter's honesty. In the following days, Beatrice launched a real campaign against the family name. She questioned neighbors, colleagues, acquaintances, trying to find incriminating evidence, discrepancies in stories, any clues to discredit her. She lives very modestly for the granddaughter of a billionaire, Beatrice reported to her husband. She works as a waitress and rents a cheap apartment, suspiciously. Or, logically, Julian retorted. If she really is a granddaughter, then it's logical that she lives in poverty. Then another approach. We need to compromise her. How exactly? I have an idea. Remember Marcus Hall? Marcus Hall was a former corporate employee, fired for financial impropriety. Now he worked for a private security firm and didn't turn down the extra income. What are you planning? Marcus will approach Amelia, introduce himself to our agents, and offer money to renounce the inheritance, and we will record the attempted bribery. It's dirty. It's protecting family interests. Julian hesitated. On the one hand, he didn't want to harm an innocent person. On the other hand, Amelia's appearance jeopardized his position as sole heir. Okay, he finally agreed, but cautiously. The plan was put into action the next day. Marcus approached Amelia as she picked up Leo from school. Amelia Reed, he asked. Yes, and who are you? Marcus Hall. I represent the Vance family. I have an offer that might interest you. What offer? $1 million to renounce all claims to the inheritance. Amelia was taken aback. What? The family is willing to pay you $1 million in cash if you renounce all claims and disappear from their lives. This offer comes from Mrs. Emily, from those who represent her interests. And if I refuse, then your life will be very unpleasant. Problems at work, with housing, possibly with custody of your son. Amelia took Leo's hand. Come on, honey. Think about the offer, Marcus called after her. At home, Amelia was tormented by doubts. $1 million would solve all her financial problems, would secure her son's future. But giving up the family she had just found felt like a betrayal of her mother's memory. Mom, who was that uncle? Leo asked. A bad man who wants to scare us. Will we be afraid? No, darling, we won't be afraid. The next day, Amelia came to Emily and told her about her meeting with Marcus. Who dared offer you money to give up your family? The old woman was indignant. He said he represented your interests. I didn't send anyone. That's Julian and Beatrice's job. At that moment, Julian and his wife burst into the office. Beatrice held a folder of documents. Mom, we need to have a serious talk, Julian said. About what? About our dear relative. Beatrice put the folder on the table. It turns out that Amelia was trying to get a bribe to renounce her inheritance. What? Alina asked, stunned. Our agent recorded her demanding $2 million to leave the family. That's a lie. Amelia screamed. Here's a recording of the conversation. Beatrice turned on the recorder. The recording contained Marcus's voice and a distorted female voice demanding hush money. It wasn't me, Amelia said desperately. The recording is doctored. Of course it is, Beatrice remarked sarcastically. All swindlers say that. Emily looked confusedly between her granddaughter and her son. Who should she believe? Emily sat in her office, torn between her granddaughter and her son. The incriminating recording cast doubt on Amelia's honesty, but something didn't add up. Maybe I should leave? Amelia said, her eyes watering. I don't want to break up the family. No one is leaving until we find out the truth, Emily replied firmly. Amelia was packing her things in her room, accidentally knocking over an old box on the shelf. She saw dozens of letters spill out. Picking up one, she read the address. Emily Vance from Isabella Reed. With trembling hands, she opened the envelope. Dear Mother, Daniel is seriously ill. We need money for treatment. Please, answer me. Second letter. I gave birth to a daughter. I named her Amelia, the name you chose for my granddaughter. Last letter. Julian said you've disowned me. Finally, I won't bother you anymore. Amelia grabbed the box and ran to Emily. Look, Isabella's been writing to you for 20 years. Elenina read the letters, turning pale with each line. My God. She asked for help, and Julian told her I've disowned her. Julian. She called her son. What happened? That's what. She threw the letters at him. You intercepted my daughter's letters. Julian turned pale. I wanted to protect you from pain. She begged for forgiveness, and you lied that I had disowned her. Mom, you were depressed. How dare you decide for me? Because of you, she died, thinking I didn't love her. And the fake recording? Amelia asked. We just wanted to test your motives. Emily stood up. Get out of my house. Mom, get out and take your wife. The corporation will belong to Amelia. Without me, it will fall apart. We'll see. Amelia is smart. She'll learn. Julian realized he had lost and left home forever. Forgive me for doubting you. She hugged her granddaughter. You didn't bring discord. He was here for 30 years. You helped him see it. A month later, the Vance mansion took on a new atmosphere. Leo's childish laughter filled the hallways, and Amelia was settling into her role as heiress. Grandma, I won, Leo shouted, winning at chess. Bravo, clever girl. Amelia worked in the art studio that Emily had equipped especially for her. Her creative talent came from Isabella. She was a real artist, Amelia said, looking at her mother's paintings. And you, too, inherited talent. Amelia impressed with her business acumen, quickly grasping the complexities of corporate management and creating a charitable program for talented children from poor families. I want to name it after Isabella and Daniel, she suggested. Isabella would have been delighted. On the anniversary of the Elenin reunion, she hosted a family dinner. She raised a glass to the family, for a love that is stronger than pride. For Mama Isabella, added Leo. For Grandma, who didn't abandon us, said Amelia. After dinner, Emily handed over the Polaris locket. It's yours now, the symbol of our family, the guiding star home. Mama didn't wear it for its beauty. Amelia understood. It reminded her of the home she had lost, and now symbolizes a new beginning. Grandma, are you happy? Leo asked. For the first time in 30 years, I'm truly happy. How do you feel? Thinking of Julian? Amelia asked that evening. Sadness, I lost 2 children. One to pride, the other to greed, but I gained a granddaughter and a great-grandson. Thank you for not letting me go to the cafe that day. Thank you for coming into my life. The medallion showed the way, but it was love that saved us, the love that Isabella carried through her life and passed on to you. The Vance family was whole again, and its greatest treasure was not an inheritance, but the warmth of human hearts.